Arr. And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland. This is Sensei Al Bob. Your sensei, your griot, to tell you a story. So, how are you guys? What do you want? So you want a story? Do you want a concise report? Some people go, I don't have the time to listen to the whole story. Blah, blah, blah. Pretty much what I do is a stream of consciousness about whatever I'm thinking about. And I've tried, because you guys so much like the old crone, to put it into perspective from her point of view. Early on, when I started doing this almost 3 years ago, holy moly, I've got more than 2,000 shows up there. And, I go back and I see a lot of you guys look at it later on. And, after about a month or two, every show has at least 50 views, if, somewhere between 50 and 200 views, and that's okay by me. But what I miss is the conversation, Earlier on, we had a nice little live chat, which is still there. You can do it. And I'll show you. You can do it. See, there it is. KKKK. So we're all in some clan or another. But so let's see. I'm gonna try and be like Amy of Democracy Now. The only real media I get is public radio, right? And my public radio show, I'm just on the edge of Tennessee's public broadcasting out of Johnson City, ETSU, I think it's called. And they're I think, one of the best, public broadcasting shows. Asheville, when I lived there, was the worst. Roanoke, just catered to the rich folk. So they know their audience. But these guys, ETSU, they have really, and they have a number of different channels, not just one. They got 4 streaming things. If you put etsuradio.org, I bet you it would come up what it is. So they have, on their thing that comes over the radio waves, because I have no internet. I have to drive, 30 miles to bring you this show. And good morning, good evening, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. I am your griot, and don't believe a word I say. Everything I say out of my mouth is for your entertainment's sake, right? And if you get a little edification, that's good. And I really want to thank everyone who's sent something into my PayPal. And if you want to drop something in there, it is thedudeawake42@gmail. Thedudeawake42@gmail. And that's my email account, thedudeawake42@gmail. And if you want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me there, right? And then I can get back to you. And if you're in the United States, you can leave your phone number and I'll give you a call and we can talk toe to toe. And so ear to ear. So anyway, do you know what yesterday was? Yesterday was the opening of this season, not of football, not of baseball, not of basketball, but of the Supreme Court, right? Now we have 6 rabid conservative, I wouldn't even call them conservative, reactionary, and I wouldn't even, what is a Republican? I don't think it exists anymore. I called my youngest sister. I got a bunch of them, and she lives in Texas, and so I said, there's only one of my siblings that really answers the phone, and that's because she works at a phone, and it rings, and there I am, right? So, but all the rest, forget about it. my brothers, my sisters, all the rest of them. They're so busy, so important. And so I finally got a hold of my youngest sister. And, and all my siblings, I got along great with them. I don't push, I try not to push their buttons, but, it's like me. I mean, look at me. I'm sitting out in the car because the one of the places I found to do the show, some guy came in and he was trying to hawk tickets he was promoting a concert. And I said, "Oh, so you're a rock and roll promoter?" And he goes, "Oh, no, I'm a man of God." And I said, "Oh, what?" And I said, "Oh, I like it. I like Bible music. Yeah. So where is it?" And he told me, and I said, "So is it free?" "Oh, no, because I'm selling tickets, $22." And I said, "So Jesus needs $22, And Jesus needs money." I thought he threw the money changers out of, and he got very upset. And he quoted something out of the Bible saying that it's okay to make money, right? Off of Jesus. And I pulled out my Bible, and he nearly crapped a thing. And I looked up because he said, blah blah, 42.99, and I looked it up, and he totally didn't even get close, right? And then I went to Leviticus and showed him another quote right in the book that said, you try to make money off of Jesus, you're going to hell. And he got really upset. So I think he told the people who ran the place, who were pretty Jesus themselves, kind of like Hobby Lobby. It's interesting how Hobby Lobby bought illegally a chunk of the original poem of Gilgamesh and put it in their Christian museum, right? So, and in the Constitution, it's supposed to be separation of church and state, and one of the things, and the thing that opened yesterday was the Supreme Court, right? So that's the interesting thing, and they choose what a lot of people try to get things heard at the Supreme Court, but they choose what they want to hear. It's kind of like Facebook, and so what they are going to listen to between now and Christmas is things about abortion, things about the Second Amendment. Basically, this one, New York City has a law stating that you can't have a concealed weapon unless you get a license for it. They have a concealed weapon license, right? And, so they check you out to make sure you're not a felon or blah, 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 or you're crazy or whatever. And so someone sued them for that and got all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court finds in favor of, that crew, then what that means is that everyone in America will be able to have a concealed weapon without registering it whatsoever. That'll be fun. 340 million Glocks, that'll be fun. And get more of those thumbs up. Thank you for who's here. There's Senor or Senorita Art and Hall. So I can barely read, and I'm wearing 2 pairs of glasses, and I can barely read your names there. Ryan and Reflection Art, maybe. Well, good to see you guys, and I love you, and thanks for coming aboard. So what do you want? What kind of show do you want here? Me telling stories, me giving you little glimpses of what I think is important. So the Supreme Court, important, right? So first abortion, then Second Amendment, then the really one that no one's even talking about is HMO is suing HHS. That's the people who run Obamacare and Medicaid, Medicare, and they're suing them over something really in the weeds about the administration of a drug, right? Which is legal, but who's going to pay for it? How much did it cost? And so they're suing them. And if the Supreme Court finds in the favor of the HMO, what that means that so the Congress has the power of the purse and to make laws, right? So they make laws, and then within the law, they set up a structure of administration. So HHS does healthcare, and human services, and OSHA protects the worker. FDA allegedly protects food and medicines, and FAA, the airways, NRC, nuclear power plants. Well, if the Supreme Court finds in favor of this HMO, that means all of those institutions that Congress set up to administer all these laws will have no authority. And the only entity that will have authority are corporations. And if you look up in the dictionary, government run by corporations, you find the word fascism. Now, we're already a corporate state. But we in socialist states, there's government capitalism, and in capitalist states, there's a capitalist state, right? So, we're all maybe we're more than halfway there. But once because Congress is elected by you and me, right? And once they have no authority over administrating the laws that they write, and the laws are already written by corporations. I mean, the FDA is like, when it started, they already had, it was like legal to put lead into food. It was okay to put cocaine into sodas. It was okay, and those were all grandfathered in, and it took 100 or more years to just even scratch. And they passed laws that you can't gather data, like the NRC passed, had the Congress pass laws that, the FBI collects data on crime, but they can't say who did what and where it happened, and especially how many people get offed by guns. Do you have my Halloween ghost? Really? What's that? Do you have, again, guys, write in all caps so I can read it. Have any spooky Halloween ghost stories? Oh. Okay. I do. So I have, if you ever gone to my Griot Publishing, that is GR, because I misspelled it when I put it in there. GROTT. I have no idea. I can't even read that. Nope, can't even read that. Maybe there we go. Well, Griot Publishing, or XRATTED.blogspot.com. One or the other, you might get there. So, yes. And if you go on that, I got a lot of spooky, strange, crazy stories. But here's one right for you now. But again, remember that Supreme Court. Remember fascism, because we're going there now. And let's see. Oh, there we go. Love to hear your favorite recipe. Well, recipes. I'm a Italian cook, so it's like art. How I'm feeling, how it tastes. But I'll give you my grandma's recipe on, Italian, pasta sauce. She had she cooked everything on a big cast iron skillet and had a lid, and she would put in oil and garlic, cloves, and she would cut, and she would render those cloves down. She just peel up one head of garlic and then take all the little cloves and cut them in half after peeling them off, and putting them in olive oil and brown them up. And as soon as they turned brown and became pretty clear and soft, she would pick them out of the oil, and she'd put them in this little jar, and she'd save those, and she'd make a paste out of that, and she'd put it on bread with mozzarella cheese and a basil leaf. a fresh basil. She always had basil and thyme and oregano um, growing on her shelf in little pots. Anyway, so um, then she would take a big white onion, sweet onion, and cut it in half and stick it in that olive oil, put it on low heat, and put the cover on, and then go away and we go do something. About an hour later, that onion would be super duper soft. And then she would add, whatever can of tomatoes she had, sliced up tomatoes, and a little can of tomato paste, and she'd mix it all up. And then she would, in her smaller skillet, she'd put more olive oil, and she would um, basically um, uh, take some of that garlic paste and stick it in there, and a few herbs. And she really liked lamb, and so she would have lamb chops and all of that kind of stuff. Lamb chops was it. She had and she'd have like lamb, the lamb bits that nobody bought. The you know Nearby her there was a butcher, and he would like grind it all up like hamburger. And she would make. She'd put raisins and a little bread and some egg, and she would mix that up, and then she would add the meat and mix that up, and then she'd make. She had a big melon baller, so it was like an ice cream scoop, and and she would take that and make meatballs, right? And she would fry them up in the small skillet, and then she'd put on her big boiler, and she'd add whatever pasta. And she would. There was a place that actually kind of had fresh pasta, and so she'd boil that up, and she would buy lasagna strips, pasta that thick, and she would make little rigatonis, like ricotta cheese in them, right? Right, and then take the fork around them. She'd throw that in the boiling water with a little bit of salt and a little bit of garlic powder, and just a little flakes of cayenne pepper, and she'd boil that up, and then she'd add, bring the tomato sauce that had been on low up to medium until it started to bubble a little bit, and she would add um, the meatballs to that, and she would, skillet that, and then bring it up to a even higher temp, and skillet that, and then turn it off, and then go back to the boiling water, and she would take out whatever pasta. But it was usually these kind of little ravioli things, but they were smaller, and she'd throw it in there. And she didn't make everything from scratch, like the tomato she got out of a can, the paste she got out of a can, the pasta was, she bought at a store, but it was kind of, freshly made, not been sitting up on a shelf for, 6 months. And so, and it was lasagna strips that were that wide, and she would cut them up, and then, put the ricotta in there and put it over, and she'd put a little in that ricotta mix. She'd put a little bit of that garlic paste in there, and but when they were right, she would take all of those pasta guys and put them into the the pasta sauce that had been in a medium bubble, and then she'd add them in there, and then she'd turn it to way low and put the lid on, and we'd go off and do something and come back maybe 20-30 minutes, and it would be ready. And she'd have fresh ground Romano cheese and put it on there, and it was ooh baby, ooh baby. So that's my little thing to you, and that's my favorite recipe. Sounds delicious, yep. So my most scariest thing is, so since the pandemic, I've written 4 novels, each about 300 pages, and one is called Legacy, the other is called Legend, one's called Ear Hair, and the other one is Bad Girl Really Smells Bad. And so And the bad girl is not a female; it is a guy who is pretending to be a woman and murders people, and that's a spoiler, right? So, and so it's a misogynist guy who dresses up as a woman and takes it. And so what I did was took all the FBI information about missing women, especially Black, Hispanic, Black, Brown, and Indigenous folk. Those women go missing and no one cares. No one even investigates. This white girl from Long Island. Oh, they had the whole world upside down looking for her, right? But not Black, Brown, or Indigenous people or Asian. And so I take this character, and he is a police officer of some ilk, and he's been fired from big cities to small counties to and he was in the military, and he was in the FBI, and he did things, and all of those things that were like those institutions. He went to the underbelly of who they were, and then did all these really nasty things in their name. And so they didn't arrest him or charge him with anything. They just, it's okay, you got to go. Thanks for killing those people, but you got to go. And he didn't even, kill bad people. He just killed women. And he himself was dressed as a woman doing it. So, so that is Bad Girl Smells Really Bad. So that's just that you might find on the book jacket, and but they're not publishing any books anymore, so because of supply chain problems. And so, but the scariest thing in one of those books, in Legend, I have a friend who was one of the first Marlboro men. His name is Carlton Haynes, and he came from a very rich family in New York, a Dutch family, and they controlled everything forever, right? And they were part of what I call the high table, or the high, the hidden hand, and not even the powers that be, right? And so his mom was a real estate, owned because of her father, and their family, they owned a ton of real estate all over the place. Especially in places like Park Avenue and Uptown, because those were all farms, and their families were farmers back in the day. And Central Park was a farm. So, and why New York City's cut up like a box, avenues going one way and streets going the other way, is that her family wanted to maximize their real estate to the max. Instead of having like Lower Manhattan has roads that do this, they cut it like this so they could get the most pieces of property on each box. And so that was Carlton's family, and it was they did some pretty nasty things, wiping out Indian tribes and all of the rest. And so, and they kept marrying into the worst of the worst families that would come over on the boat. And if you go watch the movie, Gangs of New York, you get a good picture of Carlton's family. The original guy who's standing up on the balcony, who's Dutch, and his time, the sun shining on him is waning, but he owns everything. He's way up there, right? And all the rich people underneath him are Dutch too. And then the Irish are like the scum, right? And so we've always treated our migrants really bad, and not just Black and brown ones, So, we treated the Irish really bad, the Polish really bad, the Germans really bad, the Italians really bad. But they, depending on how light their skin is, they could climb up the ladder, right? And we have a caste system, So, anyway, Carlton, so he was, really handsome, had a lot of money. So he always had 3 hot girls on each arm, and he would go into parties, and he would, make the entrance, and he'd always go home with the hottest one, right? Now, so I don't know why, but he glammed onto me because he used to come to our Allen's and my 9th Street, potluck dinners, and he glammed onto me, and I was only 17 at the time. And so he was an interesting guy. I can put up with anyone because I have a real good 360. I know what's going around me. And so I just kind of get out of the way of whatever's coming, and don't get really involved other than to observe. Um, unless my three laws, doctor, do no harm, don't get involved unless you have a positive exit strategy and you're only going in to save the innocent. And the third one is don't get involved unless you can learn something. So I can always learn something. So that was my little thing, and of why I stomach Carlton, and he was very interesting and knowledgeable at everything, and so anyway, I stuck around him and tried not have him mixed with other elements of my life, but just he was that, and so we had many adventures, and so he's always buying up real estate, either for his mom or for himself, and he had he bought up a good chunk of Soho and Tribeca. He knew what he was doing. When people, that's, I could have bought a lot of buildings because of him. He never get me the cash, and I would find a building, he would buy it. Oh, give me a part of this. Never. I mean, he, threw cash my way, but I tried to get my dad, not really. So anyway, and if I had done that, I would have turned out like Carlton. So the universe always kind of takes care of me. It always kind of works out. It's never a serious problem, right? So he wanted to go look at a piece of property that was in his family's name forever, kind of upstate New York, just out of New York, Merrimack or Marytown or something, just kind of past, Bear Mountain. And we went up there, and that part of New York State is very pretty. So we go up there, and it's what was known as a house from the Gilded Age, right? Big house. And and it had been on a farm lot, so it was like 20, 30 acres. And it was kind of over in a corner out just outside of this town. And there were the road that went up to this, there were houses on it, and it was kind of a county road, so it wasn't a cul-de-sac. I mean, that road that this house was on was, but there was a good quarter mile from that county road up to the house. And it had a big picket fence all the way up, cast iron picket fence. And that sucker was probably worth, when cast iron was worth something in like the 70s, 80s, 90s. Sometimes, there are many times when metals become, like copper went through the roof. First time I ever bought a coil of BX, right? 12-2 BX, it cost $11. Today, that coil of 12-2, 250 feet of 12-2 is like almost $200, right? Anyway, so we went, he had the key and it didn't work, he stuck it in the lock and it broke off. So we had a bolt cutter. We cut the bolt, the lock, and we opened the gate and we drove up, man. And it was just, driving up to that house was just the closer you got. You just, I felt like I wanted to throw up. And it was getting close towards Halloween. So Carlton had a big bag of candy corn, the thing, right? And, so it was morning, didn't have breakfast. I shouldn't have, so I started to eat it. And it was like, almost rancid. How can candy? I said, how old is this? He goes, I don't know, 5, 6 years. Why are you bringing that? I never saw that on the dashboard of your car. Well, it's an offering. Offering? Yeah, well, you'll see. And so, I only ate, I don't know, 5 or 6, and then I stopped eating. But we didn't eat. We didn't stop for breakfast or anything. He said we got to get up there before a certain time. So, before noon. And he's not a morning guy, so we go up there. We're there maybe at 12 or at 10:45, and we pull up, and it's like near Halloween, about this time. All the trees have, well, on his property, all the leaves are black. They're not turning red; they're black. And the tree, everything looks dead. And we pull up this house, and I look up. And it's like almost a 4-story, big, gigantic house. And at the gable of the thing, there's a big window. And coming through the window is a waterfall of water. And it's like, ooh, going out and hitting the ground. And as soon as it hits the ground, it freezes. So all around, there's a big puddle there. And it's all iced up. He goes, don't step in that. So I'm not, I'm just, and then I get this amazing, really terrible feeling. And he goes, "Do you have to throw up?" I go, "Yeah, yeah." Well, good, good, good. Go over that big tree over there, and on the north side, throw up. So I go to the north side and throw up. And I mean, I threw up like everything, things from my being six, birthday, right? And just, I just emptied everything out of me. And I felt, you know, pretty good. But then I felt all of this stuff trying to get in me. And I kind of, I learned how to put up a shield. So I did that. The Marinals showed me that and, and gave me the prayer, bless me indeed, Father Sky, Mother Earth, Holy Spirit, bless me indeed. Enlarge my territory. Put your hands upon my shoulders and keep me from evil, so I will do no harm. So I was saying that, really loud, and because, and then then I got a nice little bubble around me, and Carlton says, "Stop doing that." So I go, "Carlton, what is going on? What is this place?" And soon as he put his foot on that step, something took over. It was, the demon, came out of Carlton, and it was his family of murder and killing and stealing and cheating and lying and raping and pillaging. Um, you know, it all came out, and so I said, "Well, I am out of here." Luckily Carlton left the keys in the car, and I said, "Carlton, I'm driving out of here, and I'm gonna wait for you down at the county road. And if you're not down there by, like you said, noon, and so that's like in 40 minutes, I am history, and you're gonna have to walk home, right? And I'm gonna have your car, so I'm just out of here." And so I did, But he did come down, and and he had taken the bag of candy corn, and so I didn't stick around because he said, "Well, I had to make an offering." And so I didn't want to be that. I felt like I was going to be that offering, right? And so I was the decider. I decided, Carlton, I am, going off the premises. I am leaving the building. And so that is my interesting, spooky story. I have others, but that's the shortest one because other people have said, "Oh, you should do this. You should be shorter." Blah blah blah. Uh, so sounds delicious. Yeah, that was my how to make a beautiful Italian meal, and then we'd always have broccoli rabe. Uh, she'd steam broccoli rabe, and she really liked carrots, so she would boil up carrots and in butter, right? And put them in the fridge, and she'd have this big jar of boiled in butter carrots, and she would you know steam the broccoli rabe, and then in her small little frying pan that still had the oil from the meatballs and the garlic and the herbs, and she would throw in first the carrots and then the broccoli rabe, and saute it up, and that would be our meal. The pasta with the sauce, big bowl of sauce, freshly cut, Parmesan cheese, and you know, what you call it, broccoli rabe and carrots, and that was usually that was the pasta dinner. And she had one of those things, a Dutch oven. She would you know you know cook up roasts, and like I said, she loved lamb. She would get the back hind quarter of a leg of lamb, so it wasn't this gigantic thing. It was like, but the best. And she would get all kinds of parts of meat, and have the butcher grind it up, and then she would turn it into rolls. She'd take the meat, add, seasonings and bread, and she'd roll it out, like make it that thick and roll it out in a square. And she would put olive oil in her what she called her baking pan, and she'd put that meat in there and kind of cook it up for 40 minutes, and then she would take it out and she would make a cheese vegetable kind of a filling that she would put over the meat, and then she would roll it, right, and then she would put breadcrumbs on it, and then she would, fry it basically, right? And then she'd put it in her baking pan, and she would bake it, and then she would slice it like a meatloaf, and it was yum yum yum. So anyway, it's starting to rain. I'm going to get on down the road. I just wanted to leave you with this. I love you. Again, you want to leave some money in my PayPal, that's the dude awake 42 at Gmail. You want to get me on the Gmail and talk to me. It's the dude awake 42 at Gmail. And I'll try again soon. So it's been about 2 or 3 days since the last one. And again, I have very little money. My car is, it just, started and got me here, and I put some gas in it. And so anyway, I love you guys. Talk to you later.